of the presidential race 1 month ago tonight. Take a look at this. President Obama and Mitt Romney were essentially neck and neck all throughout the summer, and then boing, President Obama very quickly and very dramatically jumped out to a 6-point lead. What happened all of a sudden to cause that sort of jump? Well, right here was President Obama's speech at the Democratic Convention in Charlotte. What you're looking at thereafter is what people call the post-convention bounce. After what had been really a static race, President Obama not only jumped ahead in national polls like this Gallup Daily Tracking poll, but he also jumped out to a sizable lead in basically all the key swing states. Again, here's what the race looked like around this time last month. President Obama was up in Virginia, he was up in Ohio, he was up in Florida, he was up in Colorado, he was up in New Hampshire. You almost could not find a swing state poll that did not show President Obama increasing his lead. This is what a post-convention bounce, and a good one, looks like. And it was a bounce that lasted for a while. A Pew poll released more than a week after the Democratic Convention showed President Obama ahead of Mitt Romney by 8 points. Well, here's what that Pew poll looks like now. Mitt Romney has erased his 8-point deficit, and he has turned it into a 4-point lead in that poll. What happened in the race to all of a sudden to cause that sort of a jump? Well, right here was the first presidential debate that happened last week. So before, we had numbers that reflected the post-convention bounce for the Democratic side. What you're looking at after that is the post-debate bounce for the Republican side. We are actually still experiencing Mitt Romney's post-debate bounce. It is not over. Every new national poll released today shows Mr. Romney either leading President Obama or tied with him. This is what a post-debate bounce looks like. For all the Democratic hand-wringing going on right now, here's essentially what happened in the last month. The race was tight, and President Obama got a post-convention bounce and went out ahead. Then Mitt Romney erased that with his post-debate bounce, and so now the race is tight again. Ta-da! We are back where we started. Democrats, of course, are hoping that the Mitt Romney post-debate bounce ends tomorrow. Democrats are hoping that we are about to have a new seismic event in this campaign in tomorrow's vice presidential debate, one that functions the same way that this same debate schedule worked out in 2004 for a very different incumbent president. In 2004, it was the vice president's solid performance in his debate that essentially stopped the bleeding for his incumbent party. That's what happened in 2004 after John Kerry just destroyed President George W. Bush in the first 2004 debate, and Kerry got a big bump in the polls thereafter. But that bump eventually dissipated, partly on the heels of Vice President Dick Cheney's strong performance against John Edwards the following week in the VP debate. Democrats this year are hoping for that same kind of dynamic to play out. So honestly, the stakes for tomorrow night's debate between Vice President Joe Biden and Paul Ryan could not be higher for the Obama campaign. And interestingly, nobody on the Obama side is trying to play down this debate as if it is not important. The Romney-Ryan side sort of did make kind of a hilarious feint this week at trying to play down how well Paul Ryan is expected to do at this debate. This was Mr. Romney trying to do that on CNN yesterday.
I don't know how Paul will deal with this debate. Obviously, the vice president has done, 15 or 20 debates during his lifetime. Experienced debater. This is, I think, Paul's first debate. I may be wrong. He may have done something in high school. I don't know.
High school? Really? Paul Ryan's first debate? As ABC News noted today, quote, Paul Ryan has actually participated in at least 8 debates during his 14 years in Congress. That's according to available articles and information provided by the Ryan campaign. First debate, 9th debate, what's the difference really? We know what the truth is here, but we put our presidential candidate out to talk to the press on camera and just make stuff up about it. That's not true. Big stuff, small stuff, nobody expects that what Mitt Romney says at any given moment is anything you can take to the bank. We'll just revise it later. I do not get this strategy on their part. I do not get why that campaign does not take their candidate's perceived trustworthiness more seriously. They squander it on even small stuff like this. But anyway, momentum-wise right now, obviously all of the momentum is on the Republican side in this race. They can try to play that down as much as they want to, but it is very, very clear from the polls. Substantively, for the Democrats, the challenge right now is how do you prepare to debate? And how do you actually debate a campaign that is not really sticking to any identifiable policy stances? A campaign that's willing to change what they're running on so much minute to minute that you never actually know who's going to turn up on that debate stage. and what they're going to say that they stand for in that moment. How do you prep for that? How do you prep for a moving target like that? How do you rebut that? How do you turn that, in fact, that malleability, that willingness to abandon previously held policy positions, how do you turn that into a political liability at the debate for a Mitt Romney or a Paul Ryan? Former President Bill Clinton, speaking yesterday at a rally in Las Vegas, I think is sort of modeling a means of doing that. Watch.
I had a different reaction to that first debate than a lot of people did. I mean, I thought, wow, here's old moderate Mitt. Where you been, boy? I missed you all these last 2 years. But I was paying attention the last 2 years. And it was like one of these Bain Capital deals, you know, where he's the closer. So he shows up, doesn't really know much about the deal, and says, tell me what I'm supposed to say to close. Now, the problem with this deal is the deal was made by severe conservative men. So, for 2 whole years. Until 3 or 4 days before the debate, they all got together and said, hey, man, this ship is sinking faster than the Titanic. But people were still frustrated about the economy they wanted fixed yesterday. So just show up with a sunny face and say, I didn't say all that stuff out there the last 2 years. I don't need that tax plan I had for the last 2 years. You don't believe me or your lying eyes here. Come on. What are you doing? And if I've been the president, I might have said, well, I hate to get away with this. I miss you. This whole last 2 years, I miss you. I could have used you in that healthcare debate when I was trying to enact a national version of the Massachusetts law. And you were all of a sudden condemning what you had been for. And I miss you.
Former President Bill Clinton speaking at a Democratic event yesterday afternoon in Nevada, seemingly having the time of his life doing so. Once it became clear that Mitt Romney was going to be the Republican Party's presidential nominee this year, the Obama campaign had a choice to make about how they were going to run against Mitt Romney, how to define Mr. Romney before he got a chance to define himself. And all of the campaign reporting from this year about the Obama campaign tells us that the decision-making process in the Obama campaign pretty early on was that they were going to not run against Mitt Romney as a flip-flopper. They thought they had that as an option, but they didn't want to run against him that way because they expected him to survive the primaries and become the nominee, and they did not want to help him into his escape hatch, to escape all of the policy positions he would have to take during the primaries. They didn't want to help him make his case by showcasing all his flip-flops that he didn't really believe the super right-wing stuff he was going to have to pledge himself to in the primary campaign. The Obama campaign decided not to run against Mitt Romney like that. Instead, they decided to run against his actual stated policies, highlighting how far right they are. But now, having run against him that way thus far all year long, Mitt Romney, in the debates, as President Clinton just explained, is abandoning all those policies and trying to run as Mr. Moderate. So does the Obama campaign insist on holding Romney to all the hard right stuff he said he was going to run on for these past 2 years, even though Mr. Romney now denies those positions? Or do they go back to the old strategy that they decided against at the start of this campaign? Do they go back and decide, forget it, we're going to run against him as somebody who stands for nothing, who flip-flops, who says whatever sounds good in the moment? Heading into debate 2, given what happened in debate 1, is what happened in that first debate now forcing the Obama campaign to essentially give up their main strategic commitment that they made early on in this campaign to run against Mitt Romney? President Obama's deputy campaign manager, Stephanie Cutter, joins us next for the interview.
For Matthew Casey.